Okay, guys, you are now live.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to the Charlotte Black Film Festival, where we are here today to talk about a great film that most of us have had an opportunity to view. And then we have the writer, producer, and one of the main characters in the film. It was called Fish Netting. And I don't know if the numbers are important, but I'm going to ask Darnice to do all of that because I don't want to slight not 1 minute of this great and powerful film. Welcome everyone who is in our audience viewing this today. Today I have with me Saida Sudan, who she and I have been partners on this journey, fighting all sorts of discrimination and injustices in our community. And one that is very dear to our heart happens to be centered around human trafficking. So Saida, I would like for you to introduce yourself. Next, we have Darnice Wright, the author and producer of this great film. Then we have Tanja Roberts, who is a dear friend of mine. We are working tooth and nail or hand in hand as we fight the injustices around our law enforcement, our laws, and fighting for the John Lewis bill. Fighting for voting rights is our primary target. And then we have the actress who did a phenomenal job in the movie, Lamaya. And welcome to each and every one of you. I am the Reverend Glency Redrick, founder of Speaking in the Key of We, and I host a lot of other projects that deals with fighting justice. Don't want to spend a lot of time talking about me at all, want to spend our time talking about this film. So Saida, if you would introduce yourself and just kindly drop the mic, we want to take a few minutes to get those introductions out, and then let's engage around the movie and some questions of our writer, producer, and main character. Saida. You're on mute.
I am. Good afternoon, all. I am Saida Sudan. I am a domestic violence specialist, and I am also a certified life coach. Here in Charlotte, I have opened the first domestic violence Muslim-led shelter here in Charlotte, Mecklenburg County.
I'm gonna drop the mic.
Awesome. Good afternoon, everyone. I am super excited to be here. Darnice Wright, the executive producer of Fishnets, Silent Screams of Sex Trafficking.
Tanja, you next.
Awesome. Thank you for having me to my audience that's out there in internet land. I am Tanja Roberts, and I am based out of Virginia, but travel all over for fighting for voting rights for all people, and especially people of color and women. And I am happy to be here and honored to meet the main character as well as the producer and creator of the film. So thank you for having me.
Well, Maya, it's all you.
Hello, everybody. I hope everyone is having an amazing day. My name is Lamaya. I am the lead actress from Fishnets.
So thank you everyone for those introductions. Let's just get right into it. I like to start out by asking Darnice. I felt a lot of passion, a lot of heartache coming from the film. So please share with us what motivated you to do this great film.
What motivated me to create and just, I wanted to basically start something where we can spread awareness about sex trafficking. And that's how Fishnets came about. You know, a lot of times, a lot of people aren't talking about it. It's a very ugly subject. And my standpoint was that a lot of times people are saying it's for young people who are being snatched, who live in poverty-stricken areas, and that's not true. In our area, in the Maryland, Washington, D.C. area, there are young people who are being abducted who live in suburban homes. And so I wanted to showcase abduction, showcase also where there's some sexual molestation in family members, which of course goes on in so many different homes. So we touch on that as well. And we touch on online predators, which are the handlers, and we touch on drug activity with the prostitutes.
Yeah, you did an amazing job capturing all elements that most people tend to omit. In my research, it shows that the typical age of a person being trafficked for all sorts of reasons, but also centered around sexual trafficking is age 13. And I thought that that was significant because your characters were about 15, 16 years old.
Right.
So given those statistics that we find, does anyone have an idea as to what that looks like in communities of Black and Brown, the percentages?
Well, 62% of the African Americans, when they are actually arrested, prostitutes. Well, I don't even like to use the term prostitution because they were actually forced into it. But when young ladies are picked up for prostitution, 62% of them are African American. And so we are targeted. We're targeted online. We're targeted even if you're walking down the street in this area. If you're walking down the street, we have had situations where white trucks, white vans will try to abduct. And it's not just young women. It's a high alarming rate of young men as well.
Thank you for sharing that, because I do know that your movie did not show any of the young men being exploited and kidnapped, but it did show the young ladies. Are there any other questions for those of us who had an opportunity to view the movie? Was it anything that reached out and grabbed you the minute the movie came on, Saida or Tanja?
You know, I will add, I saw that movie this morning. And when I tell you, I looked at the movie and I said, wait a minute. I kind of went back to the beginning. And that from the beginning, I had a pit in my stomach because I can relate, not from my point of view, but I can relate about the women and the women that I come in contact with, the stories that I hear, the sexual molestation of family members. And those are the things that stay real quiet. No one talks about that. Nobody wants to talk about that. And I will say, Lamaya, you did a terrific job. I mean, I felt so sorry for you. I felt sorry. And to see how you went from a child to an adult because you had to. And I was all morning, I thought about that movie and I thought about coming in here. You did a wonderful job. And Darnice, you did an excellent job with that all together. But I'll tell you that it just brought back some feelings like, you can always think about somebody that came to you that said something about something that happened. Either he made me do drugs, either he made me have sex with him, or even my uncle is molesting me. So you did a good job. Both of you did a wonderful job.
Thank you so much.
Well, I want to just chime in with regard to when I started watching the film and it was heavy, like from the beginning. And I reached out to Reverend Grumpy. I said, this is hard to watch. This is heavy for me. I just, because I needed it to be, I needed the main character to win, right? And so I could see, because she fell outside of the realm of protection when her mother left, right? So most of the time, mothers keep their girls close, right? And so she had that protection probably when her mother was around. And we can pick up on the uncle or the family member or whomever who's kind of focusing inappropriately on your daughter, right? You know, it's just something kind of like the main character was saying when she called her best friend. He's weird, you know, something uncomfortable about being around her uncle. But you know, when she lost her mother, you know, her protection piece kind of left. And then it probably wasn't even on dad's radar initially because, you know, he was so probably dealing with grief still. And that was supposed to be a realm of goodness, right? Because his family is supposed to be where you're to be safe. And that was the most unsafe space for her. Her instinct, her intuition was right all along. And so I think the theme of the loss of protection for our girls, you know, then where is she to turn, you know? But it was very immediately, it was a heavy, you know, my emotion was engaged right away. And I was wanting to save her, you know. What can I do? I know this is going, what can I do? You know, so that is the question, what can we do? How, you know, bringing awareness, and then like, what can the action item be, you know?
Well, I can tell you for me, I watched it last night and I actually was in a conversation with Tanja and I said, don't watch it tonight. It's really hard. And I had to put it on pause and walk away. It immediately touched me personally. And I don't want to spin on that, but I had to pause it because it had the feel of real life. So Darnice, you did an excellent job providing just what real life looks like. And the movie had so many different themes in it. You know, it provided us with the grief narrative, what happens when, you know, families are experiencing grief, that they're kind of in a tunnel, that they cannot see the other things around them. And surely, had the father known, the father would have reacted because that's what fathers do. But what predators do when they kidnap and attack anyone is first instill fear and threatening. And so that was very obvious that those are the tactics that are being used. So for me, as I said, it really struck the chord. I had to put it on pause. I really didn't want to look at the rest of it until in the morning. And but I said, no, let me go ahead and finish it. And I, like Tanja, I wanted to see a win. I wanted to see an escape. I wanted to be able to see Lamaya come out on the victor. When I saw that her friend was taken first, I was hoping that the young men that were, you know, trying to hit on her, that while they captured the tag, I was hoping that there would be some type of, you know, interaction there. But I realized that, you know, short films are just that, short films. The movie did its job, though. For me, being shown to the public should create a definite awareness that it can happen to anyone, that it happens to our children, that you can be snatched off the street. You know, it takes you back to what you learned when you were a kid, though. Don't talk to strangers. But we saw that being ignored, and probably because, you know, I'm an adult, I can handle that. And then the dating scene. We oftentimes are exposed to situations where we hear about date rape. You know, his adding the chemical to her beverage, which it also showed that there was a little bit of attention from the person in the restaurant that kind of noticed something. And then she also, you know, alluded to a pattern. You know, seems like this happens all the time when you were here, but it still didn't click. So my sister, when I tell you, you touch some buttons to help us to become sensitized to our surroundings, pay attention when we're just going about our business, that something may not be right about what's going on. So I can't see her name, so I don't want to mispronounce it. Lene?
Lamaya.
Lamaya, I'm sorry. You did a phenomenal job of being able to, one, express your grief and express your grief that your father was not able to hear you in anything. And how you recognize that even sharing such a traumatic experience, your dad would not be able to hear. What would you say to our listening audience where there may be young people around your age listening to this now? What would you offer them as a way of hope and encouragement, or just what to do if they found themselves in a similar situation?
Wow, I would really just encourage them to talk to anybody that they need to talk to. I know that it's hard to express their feelings and express what happened to them in any situation, whether it's with rape or molestation or anything of that sort. I would just tell anybody to just talk to somebody and express how you feel. Make sure you're letting those emotions out, because holding it in can do a lot of damage to you. And I know that just by me stepping into the character of Charisma, just seeing how it was hard for her, not expressing how she felt with telling her dad or trying to tell her dad, and him not listening, just her having a best friend, it really kind of helped her in a way. And that support really kept her grounded, because without that support, you know, she could have went through anything, or not saying that she didn't go through anything worse, but she could have been worse emotionally. So just having that support really does something. So I would say just tell anybody and express how you feel, because it matters.
Okay, Lamaya, thank you for that. One of the key things that I did pick up in the movie is that it gave the best friend an opportunity to tell her story. And so there was, you know, what an awkward time to tell your story, but it was the right time to tell the story. So given that, Darnice, what did you think about when the two friends were together and sharing that moment? What were you hoping that the viewers would get out of that?
Well, you know, Charisma had just had this very unfortunate thing happen. And so many times we're friends, even growing up, even as adults, with individuals who've been sexually assaulted, but we never know because they never tell us. So my hope was that Charisma would go through this situation, and this is the opportunity for Heaven to express herself. Here they are, best friends, and she never knew that last year she was in that same situation. And so many times when we're find ourselves in those situations, we're ashamed. We're hiding. And this was a very vulnerable opportunity in the movie where Heaven was like, I'm here for you. I'm here for you. I'm going to be with you. And it's just, you said it was hard for you guys to watch. It was hard for me as well. Just to give you, just to be honest, it's very hard for me too. Sometimes I got to flip through it, and sometimes I just have to say, wow, I still can't believe it.
Thank you. What inspired you to write the film?
What inspired me was basically in my area, there was an extremely high volume of individuals who were being abducted. And I felt that nothing was being done about it. I felt like there were no public service announcement. There was no prevention, no solutions for our young people. I have daughters myself. There's no school talks, no assemblies. So I felt that initially it started off really something small. We were just going to do a public service announcement just to kind of put it out there. And from there, I wrote a script. And then I had an awesome director, Brian Nesbitt. He came in pulled in with his excellent writing skills, and we created Fishnets. So that's how it came about, because we really want to prevent young people from being abducted. We want parents to really hone in and pay attention to their children. You know, sometimes mom is in one room, the child is in another room, and all along, and we just left a pandemic. Those predators have been building online relationships with those children. They have been building trust with those people, but we don't know that because we don't know who they're talking to. We think they could be talking to Jimmy or Johnny, 16, and all along it's a 40 or 50-year-old predator. We have to really be more in tune as parents, as aunties, grandmas, with our young people.
I have a quick question
Go ahead.
of Darnese. Was there any meaning behind the main character's name, Charisma? Or was it something, was it just a name that you decided on, or did it have like a distinct meaning?
Well, you guys see Lamaya right here. She's a very beautiful young lady, inside and out. Charisma, of course, has a meaning. It has a meaning where, you guys said a little bit where you said the film, you wanted her to be saved. You wanted her to be rescued. This film leaves you wanting more. So is there episode 2 coming? Is there a feature film coming? Is Charisma, will she be saved? Will she go help and save others? So for me, Charisma, like I said, Lamaya is an awesome young lady. It meant something for me. It meant that, this young lady, without a shadow of a doubt, although she's in this situation now, but she will definitely come out of it.
That's good news. That's good news, because Lamaya, you did a fabulous job. One of the things that you mentioned earlier, Darnese, was that it was hard for you, like creating the film was difficult for you. How long does it take to kind of desensitize yourself, or maybe come back into who you are? Because you get absorbed probably in the character as Charisma. How did you, Lamaya, separate Charisma from Lamaya? How did you let go of her grief and her trauma? Or did you find that was really difficult to do? Were you able to like not worry about Charisma, her well-being? Because being in that character, I'm sure you had to completely absorb yourself, as Charisma. So how did you turn it loose and then get yourself back? And the same for you, Darnese. I mean, writing it, you had to be absorbed in the story, and to make it true to life and accurate. How did you get back to who you are, without grieving all the trauma that Charisma went through?
Right. So for me, it was more so hard stepping into the character rather than stepping out of the character, because I felt how she could have felt, or how any other person could feel, whether it's the situation they have been through or what they have experienced in life. So it was hard for me to actually step into the character and embody the character fully, knowing that I haven't been in that situation before, and I have to pull out all of the emotions, and just knowing how to portray the character that she wanted me to portray fully. So it was mostly hard for me to step into the character rather than stepping out of it, because I was so thankful that it hasn't happened to me. And just knowing that helped me a lot after the fact. But before, just trying to embody the character, it was really hard for me. Just knowing what could have happened to me and trying to portray that character that Darnese wanted me to portray.
Can I just take that a little further back? Darnese, I think it was you who said there was no one talking about sex trafficking in school. There's no dialogue. No one's talking about it at home. It's funny because where I grew up, we couldn't sit on Uncle Johnny's lap. That was like a no-no. Mom she didn't allow it. We could not do it. And it's funny because I do that to my daughter who's 30 now, but it was, oh, you don't sit on his lap. And now it's to my grandchildren. And now it's a little more frightening because it's more prevalent now. No, I won't say it's more prevalent. I'll say that it's been quiet then, and now it's starting to come out. And when Lamaya, when you were going into the basement, and when I first saw your uncle, and you were going in the basement, and I'm saying, okay, there's no light, he's drunk, and I'm screaming saying, don't go in the basement. You know, don't go in the basement, because I knew
Yes.
what was going to happen when you went down in the basement. So that you know, that just kind of stuck with me all day, like, oh my God, she's gonna go in the basement, it's dark down there. And then when he got finished his business, you came upstairs, he said to you, oh, don't forget the tool bag, which was right by the door. I was a mess. You don't know. Very good scene, very good acting. And where's your uncle?
Where's Uncle Troy? Wow. Wow.
But Darnice, that's the question too, that you know, how did you come out of the creating of it? You know, like, how did you get back to Darnice?
Well, you know, it's very difficult to write it, because actually for me, it is coming from personal experience. And it is coming from someone that's very, very similar to an Uncle Troy. And so, you know how, for an example, you write in your diary and you put it down and you don't come back for a minute, well, for a few weeks or a few days. That's how it was for me to write it out. And just the whole, not just the Uncle Troy, but even when Heaven had explained that, you know, she had been assaulted as well. When I shared my truth with some of my friends, they said it happened to me too. So that was a little bit of Darnice in the 80s in the film as well.
And that goes, you know, that's even more poignant, I think, because, you know, a lived experience and the trauma of that, having to relive it, you know, having to bring that back up, but probably empowering too, because now you can speak about it openly and you're not alone. You know, everybody needed a voice, and so you've given voice to the issue. You know, you've given, and that's empowering. You've empowered so many other people, you know, to step forward, that it's okay, that I'm not, you know, I'm not going to get hurt. I'm not, you know, like, my family is not going to be injured. You know, the fear factor, you know, that's powerful when the fear is taken out of the equation. I wanted to ask you, Saida, so in your journey with in interacting with women who have, you know, been abused and maybe have experienced similar traumas, you know, how have you seen them empowered? How have they been able to overcome and know that they're worthy? Because one of the things I think in dealing with this type of trauma and ugliness is that you feel like you don't have, that you're not human, right? Because you've been made to feel next to nothing because of how you've been violated. But how do they recover from that and be awakened to the fact that you are valuable?
Well, when they come here, in the stories that I've heard from the women here, and even from their children who have had that same uncle, some of them, it's like that weighing on the scale. Some of them say, I'm not going to allow this to cripple me. And then you get some on this side who are just crippled. So it's a basic, you know, you could say, oh, you just need therapy. Everybody don't think they need therapy. Everybody don't want therapy. But when you have those that are empowered, like Darnice, she gave a voice to the voiceless. Those that can't speak, that has tape over their faces, she gave them that voice. But then you still have those that still can't get past why it happened to me. So you're on that scale that teeter-totters back and forth. I'm going to do this because I'm not going to allow you to stifle me. But on this side, I'm just still crippled and don't know how to get out of it. So, we do encourage them to get therapy because it works. People think sometimes, if you get therapy, they think you're crazy. No, it happens. You need therapy for some of the things that happen in our lives. I mean, if you go back and you look at all the things that happened way before, those people that never got therapy are still crippled to today. So it's just a weighing scale. Some are empowered, by not allowing it, and then some are still crippled.
Which I think Charisma's friend, being able to talk with her, that was therapeutic for her. That was her therapy, right? And so, and having someone who's not judging,
right,
you, or if you didn't have that on, or if you had to go,
mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter. I can wear what I want to wear. You still don't have a right to violate me. I can go where I want to go. That doesn't justify, oh, okay, well, that's what happened to you because you were in the wrong area. No, it's still not okay.
Right.
And you're not going to make me feel
right,
guilty or like it's my fault because someone over there was just vile and ugly and evil. So that, I think, and then within our community, right, having to deal with therapy, right, and talking to someone, and that stigma of that, oh, well, we must be bonkers because of that, and then and it goes back to just it being like not the thing that certain communities do. So how can we get around that? How can we make a difference in that way of thinking so that we can get to healing, so that it doesn't go on to the next generation? This can be generational.
I think we have to turn that switch to,
Yeah.
not that you're crazy, but it's all right.
Yeah. And if I can jump in right quick, Saida and both Tanja hit a very great point, and I'm sorry I'm not on screen. But one of the things is that our community is still have not embraced therapy. And so I think that goes a long way in the educating that we embrace the need for therapy. The other thing that our community is good on is secrets. What happens in this house stays in this house, which is extremely traumatic and damaging, lifelong damaging, which requires persons who begin to see the value in in therapy, begin to seek out therapy so that they can become whole. So I, once again, Darnice, you have done a great job in creating this great environment where we can come and have a conversation, an honest conversation about sex trafficking. And it not only is human trafficking about sex trafficking, but it really says a whole lot more. That's just one of the main avenues that is always raised for us. I think that when we take an opportunity to look at all of the injustices that sexual trafficking crosses. So it deals with economics, it deals with immigration, it deals with ageism. These were young girls who were, basically being raped. So you had the date rape scene, you had the bullying, you had all of those dynamics that point to the very injustices that we find ourselves fighting. I see that Tommy has his hand raised. So Tommy, did you have a question for us?
I did. I
just ignore you.
I just had to come in. The ending of this movie really, you set it up so well, from the uncle creeping into the neighborhood. And then you set it up with this sister who got out the car. And I mentioned this to you. This sister who got out the car, she was bad, right? This sister was full of confidence. She was a boss. And then that dialogue she had with the character, it was just so, you wanted to know more. Like, who is this sister? What's her backstory? and where is this going? So it was really, you really set that ending up from a filmmaking perspective. Someone looking at this is like, wow, we want more. You know what I mean? Talk about that ending and how, all that good stuff.
Oh, wow. Shamice Renee out of Atlanta. That is the actress in which he's speaking of. She is a phenomenal actress, love her to life. Basically, when I wrote that scene, I was thinking about someone who had been in a game for a minute, who had been in there and knew the ropes. And here she is seeing this young little spicy number with a pink wig on. And she like, you know what? That's somebody who can take my spot. And that's how we wanted Shamice Renee to approach Charisma. We wanted her to approach her like, you could take my spot. That's why she twirls her head, say, you're pretty. It's just so many different dynamics with that, with Shamice Renee. And then, her stepping out of the vehicle, the whole everything that she has on, you guys saw it. And then, there was that creepy uncle who had an opportunity to make amends right there. He could have said, get in the car. And that would have changed her whole life. That would have showed us that he felt some type of way, some remorse about what he did. And he didn't. He drove away. And that spoke volumes too, that here you are, you basically almost put her in this situation. And then you have the audacity to just drive away. So here we are. And then another thing that I like is, in the beginning of the movie, she says, this is my beginning. And at the end of the movie, she says, this is my beginning. So again, episode 2, what's next? It kind of like I said, it leaves you wanting more. And I did want to also talk about the therapy as well, the mental health with the Black community, but I'll come back to that.
Can I just say, when I saw her get out the car, I think the first thing that came to my mind was she was in her situation and she had to work her way up to where she is now. Because when the young lady said she doesn't play, she knows the ropes, she doesn't play. So it kind of put me to, she's worked her way up to where she is. So now she's free, but not free in a sense.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Well, Darnese, talk about the stigma of the therapy in the Black community. I know that you mentioned you wanted to circle back around to it.
Well, we go to the dentist every 6 months, go to the doctor annually. Why not get that mental checkup? What's wrong with that? I mean, even if it's not a sexual assault, even if it's things you deal with on your job or things you deal with in your family, I think it's healthy to speak with someone about it who can share their professional opinion and help you with the tools that you need to progress forward. And then a lot of us, well, I have to keep it real. A lot of people in the Black community, we don't do that. So we use other vices. And then we are in these situations, we use alcohol, drugs, and shopping is an addiction as well. All of these, and gluttony, we use all of these unhealthy avenues, but we could use that person. And some of our jobs offer those services for free. All we just have to do is tap into it.
That's why they have the EAP department. EAP, you go there and you tell your story. And no one knows if that's what your if your gripe is, I don't want nobody to know. You go to EAP, who's gonna know?
Yeah. And what does EAP stand for?
Employee Assistant Program. Mm-hmm. And what that does is, when you're in a crisis or when you have a drug addiction, when your job finds out that you're on drugs, they'll send you to EAP. EAP sends you to other places to do other things so that you can get clean. If you have a problem mentally, your boss is stressing you out and you just feel like you're going to have this breakdown, you go to EAP. Mm-hmm. And they help you.
Okay, that's great. That's good resources to know, to empower ourselves, right? One of the things that I want to pivot to is the uncle or people like the uncle, because there's an underlying story there. What caused him to hurt so much that he had to hurt other people? You know, what caused him to, you know, be drinking all during the day? Like, what happened to him? Because a lot of times people who cause hurt to other people is because they are hurting. They've been hurt by someone, you know, and then part two of that is how to stop that, you know, because it's generational at that point.
I think
Or,
one
you
of the
know,
things, I'm sorry, one of the things they say is hurt people hurt people. And he, you know, as you said, Darnice, he had a chance to help her. But I think his own guilt didn't allow him to help her. I think it was more so, you know, I know what I did to her. I can't. And I'm not sure that she would not have been willing to go just to get out of that situation. So I guess it was 6 in one hand, half in a dozen. Do I want to go with him knowing what he did to me? Or do I just, you know, let him go?
Did you
That
see
is
Tommy's
such a
question in the chat? Tommy
the
said, are you
question.
going to do part two as another short or produce a feature film?
I do have plans to produce a feature film, Fishnets Lost and Found.
Ooh, I like that.
Okay, so we will be looking forward to your next production. And did have some other, one quick question that I did want to ask of you. And I'm sorry, I have little ones in the background and it actually kind of escaped me. We were talking about EAP and, you know, persons being able to reach out for assistance. Oftentimes, when we are experiencing, and I'm using we collectively, are experiencing traumas, how comfortable do we think persons who have been harmed sexually are willing to go and talk to the EAP, especially if it reminds them of the person that brought them harm? So Saida, could you speak to that? And Darcy, if you're able to speak to it, and Tanja as well.
I don't know that one would even be willing to do that. It's for someone to be hurt. Do I want to relive that pain all over again? Do I want to relive what happened to me all over again? Probably not. But at the same time, we know that if we don't, this is how it continues to fester from generation to generation. We don't want to live it again. But you know, that pain and suffering of not doing anything about it, it grows generation to generation. But at the same time, it's there for those that have enough gumption to say, as we talked about that scale, I'm not going to allow this to hinder me. I'm going to be the one to go to EAP. The other one that really doesn't feel comfortable may not go because they're not ready. Will they ever be ready? We don't know. So it all depends on the person.
I'll just jump in and share. For me, like I mentioned, even when I was writing it, I had to put it down because I saw myself as a 4-year-old little girl again, and just the memory of it, just thinking about the smells and just different things. It brought a lot of memories, and here I am in my 40s now, but I'm reflecting on when I was 4 and when I was touched inappropriately. And if you are in a mindset of, I don't want to say progression and healing, then you could possibly stay there. And even as a parent, as a wife, it affects every area of your life. For me, I felt unprotected by my mom, by my dad. I felt like this is me, this is happening to me by myself. And I was very angry with my mom for years. And then you know what? You grow up and you be a woman. You grow up, you're a woman. You have children, but yet you can still have some of those little daggering, those little effects about, you know, am I still angry with mom? Have I really forgiven? And for me, being in the church really helped me understand forgiveness. And so that allowed me to take some of the layers off. It also allowed me to be a better mom, you know, and not to be overprotective, but to have a balance, but to just teach them and show them who to look out for, and not to be, you can be trusting, but don't be as trusting, you know, because as Black women, sometimes we just straight up don't trust because we've been hurt. But it's not to say don't trust, but you have to just watch who you are trusting. So, you know, like I said, it's several different layers and levels, but I thank God that I am delivered, I'm healed, and I'm not projecting that hurt onto my daughter. That's the main thing, that, you know, although it happened to me, I could say, oh, you can't spend the night over people's house. They have a father, they have a brother, you know, and this is what can happen to you. But I had a balance with it. I talk with families, you know, I make sure that, okay, yeah, we can trust them. And so I just wanted to just share my piece, my truth. That's it.
Darcy, thank you so much again for this great opportunity for us to have this open forum. I understand that we're getting a lot of great comments and hits about it. I do want to ask one question, though. It was not brought out in your film, but not leaving out our LGBTQIA community. How can you expound on how many persons in our LGBT community may be impacted by sexual trafficking?
Oh, wow. Those numbers are astounding as well. Here in my area, we have the Courtney's House, where they provide training. They actually house individuals. They house them, and then they train other people. And I look at those statistics, and I go, and it's just it's very astounding. It's they're exploited highly. And in my area as well, we had a very ugly situation where police officers were exploiting those individuals as well. So again, I thank God for places like the Courtney's House and other places that help and house individuals who are actually going through that. But I will say that even for that community, there's always a place you can turn to. There's always a place. There are several homes, like I said, here in our area in which they can turn to. My focus was just on Lamaya and heaven at this moment. But that's not to say that I will not shed light on that area. And not only are they sexually assaulted, but they're actually killed. They're killed at a higher alarming rate than other prostitutes.
Thank you so much for that. We are going to be wrapping up in about 9 minutes. I want to again thank this amazing producer and writer of this great film. And what I like to do with the last few minutes is to ask each of you to share with the audience, give recommendation or locations that persons can reach out to if they find themselves in a situation like that. Tell them how they can be helped, and talk about places such as Courtney House that you mentioned. Darcy, Saida, tell us about your place, and Tanja, if you know of residencies in the Virginia area that will provide assistance. And again, I want to thank our panel, our producer, our amazing actress for sharing with us today. And we look forward to seeing more of your work, Darcy. Anyone can jump in.
So this is Saida Sudan. We have a domestic violence shelter, as I mentioned, here in Charlotte. It is the first Muslim-led domestic violence shelter where we do have counseling, and we counsel a lot of the women that do come in here. If you ever run into a situation that is domestic violence issue, sexual assault, you know, we're always here. Listen, if there's something that we can't do, we will refer out. Our number here in our shelter is 704-247-3790. And we also have a connection with a sex trafficking organization here called Lily Pad Haven. Lily Pad Haven's number is 704-312-2011.
And I'll just jump in. In my area, there's a couple of women's shelters, and one in particular is called Doves. I don't have the contact number for Doves, but easily accessible, you know, by just Googling them. But also, we have a shelter where the location is not publicized. So if women have to leave suddenly because of, you know, they're in a dangerous situation, they can reach out, they can call, you know, a number and get assistance right away. And that's to, of course, to keep any, you know, people who are committing the violence from tracking them down and finding out where they are located. So there's counseling available, as well as you know, care packages. If you have to leave suddenly, you know, you don't have time to pack up, you know, your suitcase and all that, but you can safely just leave, and you'll have all of the, you know, like your basic necessities will be provided once you get to the shelters. So that's resources in the Danville, Virginia, and Halifax County, Virginia area.
But I will jump on in. The National Human Trafficking Hotline number is 1-888-373-7888. I'm gonna repeat the number. It's 1-888-373-7888. If you see someone who you suspect may have been in a traffic situation, do not approach them. I repeat, do not approach them. It is very unsafe. You may think that you see a young lady out there on the street. Do not approach them, because their pimp or handler could be within walking distance. So it is very unsafe. If you see that situation, just report it to the hotline or dial 911 in your area. But again, just dial the National Human Trafficking Hotline. And I appreciate everybody. I'm so glad you enjoyed the film.
Well, awesome. I guess right now, because if you're off screen, then we can't see you on the Zoom. So it looks like there's 3 people here, even though there's 5 people here. So I'm going to, if there's more questions, oh, good. There is the Reverend. I'll let her take it over. I was gonna debo the conversation. So I'm glad you showed up.
No, you're just fine. Thank you to close us out. And again, I want to thank our listening audience. Please take everything that we are saying seriously. This movie opened the eyes to many who may not be aware of just the serious nature and the exploitative nature of our young people being caught up in this horrible form of exploitation of human bodies. Lamaya. She's still there?
Yeah, she's there.
Okay.
I think she's trying to unmute.
Okay.
She's not unmuting.
While we're waiting, Darcy, is there any last parting words that you want to leave with the audience? And if someone wanted to get in contact with you, is there public information that you can share so that we can reach out to you?
Sure. My first and foremost, I want to thank my amazing cast and crew for believing in this project, because I couldn't have done anything without each and every one of them, the talented cast, the illustrious crew. You know, they're so awesome. My IG is Darnice_Wright. You can also follow me at 8011 Productions. And also Fishnets is on IG as well, Fishnets_film, and we're on Facebook. And you can also reach out to me through my website, 8011productionsllc.com. Send us a message and we'll definitely respond.
Lamaya, are you? For Darcy, I just want to say that on my show, Speaking in the Key of We will be getting in contact with you, because once again, the basic theme of my show is no longer silenced, no longer invisible. And sexual trafficking, human trafficking is an invisible injustice that's in our community that we want to bring to the forefront, and definitely how it continues to impact many people of Black and Brown. Thank you again so much for being here today. And to our viewers, you heard all this wonderful contact information. If you see someone that you believe may be involved in an unhealthy, dangerous environment, please reach out to law enforcement, contact the National Human Trafficking numbers. There's also a national number for domestic violence shelters. And to my guest, our panelists, I want to again thank you for being here today to give more awareness and attention to an issue that we need to cure in our community. And with that, I'm going to pass it on to our producer.
I think she was talking about me, but hey, once again, just super excited for this conversation and all the conversations we've had. If you guys have not seen the film, you still can see the film at ioctv.net, where all of our films are. We did amazing things. We screened 100 films in 11 days this year. And this is one of the films we screened. And so you guys still have time to check out the films in Friday. So you have a couple days left to check out the films. And then Saturday, we have our Red Carpet Vision Awards. I'm inviting everyone to come out to the Red Carpet Vision Awards, where we're giving out the best in film. We have a DJ, we got food. We're gonna just celebrate this platform and all the filmmakers that participated this year. So that's all I have to say. I appreciate you, Reverend, for being a part of this panel, and all the panelists, and for moderating this. And so once again, list your information to your organization under this Zoom on the Charlotte Black Film Festival's Facebook page. If you have a website, you gave a lot of good numbers, place that in the comment section under this Zoom so people can reach out to you guys. With that being said, blessings and favor. You guys take care.
Have a good one, everyone.
Have a good one. Thank you.
Have a good one. Thank you so much. Thank you, Tanja. Thank you, Saida. Thank you, Darcy. And thank you, Lamaya. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you for having me.